Do. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So now
Oh,
we are live. So I guess we'll welcome everyone. Probably not anyone waiting to join yet, but we'll just get right into the discussion here. So we're just do a little round of introductions. We're gonna say who we are and what we're currently reading right now.
mhm.
I'm TreeBeard. My name is Dan, and I'm reading a lot of like long drive fantasy right now. I'm reading Farseer. I'm reading Assassin's Apprentice, and I'm reading The Dragon Reborn and the Wheel of Time. So I guess Chaz, tell us what you're reading.
Yeah. So I'm Chaz over at Bookish Chas. I am currently reading The Windward King by Bernard Cornwell, and it's the first book in the Warlord Chronicles, King Arthur. It's a historical fantasy, and then I'm also reading The Ninth Reign
Okay.
by Jen Williams. So both of them are really good. I'm not usually into historical fiction, but the Winter King is quite good. So
How are you going with the Welsh names?
I've had to look up a few. I'll put it that way. I've had to look up the pronunciation. Yeah, it's been difficult.
Yes. Apparently, the audiobook is really, really, really good. And of course,
I've
it
heard
says the
that.
names for you. So
Yeah,
it
That's
might be
the
worth,
handy thing
yeah.
of audiobooks.
Oh, absolutely.
right.
Um, what I'm reading, I'm actually working through, it takes a bit for me to read something new. I'm reading Empire of the Vampire, which I'm
Oh yeah.
really enjoying.
Okay.
And I've got a reread going with Jimmy from Jimmy Nuts,
Oh
his
yeah.
channel,
Yeah.
and doing A Song of Ice and Fire. So I'm about halfway through A
Nice.
Storm of Swords. And I've got one other. What am I doing? I've got another audiobook going, but I can't
Okay.
think what it is right now. It's a reread, whatever it is.
My wife
So,
actually got Empire of the Vampire from the library the other day, so that's she's going to be reading that at some point. So I've heard a lot of good things, but I guess we can maybe talk about what we are here to talk about, and that is Hogfather. Where are we? Hogfather, right here by Terry
Ah,
Pratchett. So I do have my
yeah.
my copy here. So I guess we just kind of want to discuss the book, talk about the things we like, talk about maybe some of the plot elements we like, some of the themes that came up, some of our favorite characters. And Derry, did you listen to it on audiobook?
um, because I've read all of them a lot, I
Yeah.
made sure I had the Hogfather in my head. So I read the ebook. I listened to the Nigel Planer version of the audio week before last, and last week I listened to the Sian Clifford audio
Oh, the new
version,
one.
ah.
which has the footnotes read by Bill Nye. So
Yeah,
I've
how was
Oh,
all
that?
of the Hogfather formats
Wow,
I've done in the last month. So
that's
and
impressive.
they're
That's
brilliant.
that is impressive.
I really like the Nigel Planer like audiobooks. I just love his death. He's like, "Thank you," and like he's just
Yes,
so like he's got
he
such
gets the spirit
and you
right.
know what? Nigel Planer, I didn't realize he's in the Hogfather BBC movie. He plays the
Yeah,
wizard. What's his name? My goodness.
Sidney. Sidney?
That's right,
Oh,
Sidney. Yeah,
Sidney.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah,
That's
I I
awesome.
ha- I haven't watched it yet, but I'm waiting for my kids to actually have time to sit down and watch it with me. But
It's really
yeah,
good. You
it's
know,
on YouTube.
yes, it's also
yeah,
on Prime Video
it
too.
is on Prime Video too.
So I
Yeah.
watched. I actually funny story with the Hogfather movie. Or I guess TV series. I said, oh, to my wife, I'm like, let's watch this. I just finished the book. I really want to watch. She's like, oh yeah, I watch this with you. You have to watch a movie with me. I'm like, bet, deal. So, and it's 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
We're 40 minutes in. She's just asleep on the couch, and I was like, well, I'm like, you just go to bed, sweetheart. I'll finish it, and I loved it. Like the first half, the first part was slow, I found, but the it really like kind of picked up from there in the second half. So actually, I actually channeled you both today. I was thinking of you both because you both made a recommendation to me, and I was at my bookstore and I picked up this, The Ocean at the
Oh
Oh,
End of the Lane.
yes,
well done.
yes.
Because I've said like I'm not a huge Gaiman fan. I've read a few
Oh,
Gaiman books. I've DNF'd one, and I just wasn't a fan of.
We'll
And
forgive you. It's okay.
and so I guess like I said, I've got a lot of good recommendations. I'm like really happy that you guys can both be here to discuss this book. And Derry is I consider my Discworld like just expert. Like everything Discworld, I could just ask Derry and she knows. So let's really start talking about the Hogfather. So where do we want to start off? Do we want to start right at the beginning with death taking over the role of the Hogfather? So guys, let's preface that there are going to be spoilers here. We're going to be doing a full kind of deep dive into the Hogfather. So what did you guys think about death as taking over the Hogfather? Because the book really kind of jumps you in not really knowing what's kind of going on. Well, I guess it starts with the auditors in Mr. Downey's office. And where you get introduced, where they give the assassins a contract to kill the Hogfather, and so then Downey enlists was it Mr. Tiatame?
Tiatame.
Yes.
Yep.
Tiatame.
Mm-hmm.
Not tea time.
Not tea time. No, it's Tiatame.
Tiatame.
And
which always reminds me of Hyacinth Bouquet from the old TV show. It's not bucket, it's bouquet.
That's good. One thing I want to say about this book that I did really like, and maybe I related it to it more with the Hogfather, is because he's a big fat guy with a beard and he likes pork pies. So,
oh yeah,
I was channeling the Hogfather when I was reading this book, and but yeah, this is a really interesting book because unlike a lot of Pratchett's, you get a really good dive with the antagonist, like Mr. Tiatame. And I think that's what really set this book apart for me, which made it so interesting than a lot of the other Pratchett's I've read, is you actually get POVs from the bad guy. And I think this had a really strong villain in this book. Probably one of the strongest Discworld villains I've encountered.
Because you also get the POVs of the people around him and how really disturbing they find him. Which, of course, as a reader, really gives you that sense of unease about this guy because the people around him are properly scared of him.
Yeah,
I agree.
And rightfully so. I mean, this dude, if you're not useful to him, he kills you. I mean, plain and simple.
A blink of an eye.
So they're striving to be as useful as they possibly can.
They really are.
And it was kind of funny, how brilliant Lord Downey was to assign someone like Tiatame to kill the Hogfather.
Oh yeah.
Such a smart move on his part, and how I think, Terry was very clever how he went about approaching Tiatame to kill the Hogfather. Because when I was first thinking, like, how would you kill?
Yeah.
How would you kill the Hogfather? How would you kill a deity, a god? And genius how he did it. Where Tiatame had been saying, like, he's like, I've thought of this on my own time. Like, this is something I've been thinking about.
A personal hobby of how I could kill things that aren't real. Because that's what normal people do.
Yeah.
I find the entire story really fascinating because of the way it looks at belief. And I'm sure you've got thoughts on this too, Chas, and that belief being a measurable, quantitative thing that has to go somewhere. And I mean, give us your thoughts on that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was fascinated by that through the whole book. I mean, not just with the Hogfather, but like, every time the wizards are in the room and they're talking to each other, and they mention this just one random thing that it would be interesting to have. All of a sudden, a fairy pops out of nowhere for it, and you hear the little jingle bells, and it's like, like everybody be quiet, or else we're going to create something new. It's just hilarious
because of this extra belief.
It's a tangible reality for them.
And I think the interesting thing that's about these things is that they existed, but they needed that extra belief to kind of pop into existence, kind of thing. So it's like they always existed, but then they didn't because they didn't have the power.
They were in potentia.
Yes, yeah.
And because there was only so much belief to go around. So when Tia Timmy comes up with that quite diabolical plan to control the belief of everybody who's ever lost a tooth to the tooth fairy,
right,
and delete the Hogfather out of that pool of belief, suddenly that belief can fill those in potentia things. So instead of just the Hogfather and the Tooth Fairy and Jack Frost, now we have the fabulous Eater of Socks and
right,
and the pencil monster and
and the cheerfulness fairy,
the hair loss fairy.
Well, we can't forget Billy as the God of hangovers.
that was
I
great.
love that.
And it wasn't just the God; it was the God.
Oh God, yes. Because that's how people pray to him. He's God.
Oh God, cure this hangover. Yeah. Brilliant.
And he was, other than the Veruca gnome, he was the first to come into being.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Brilliant. But I think this is really kind of a running theme of that Terry, put into place, where a lot like in Going Postal, where the words have power and they have this, they create like this collective entity where it's the same, where this belief is something that's tangible, something that's quantified, and exists in this world and gives things power, gives things agency, actually. So that's why death is so powerful, because everyone believes in death, everyone knows death is going to happen, so there's never going to be a loss of belief in death. And I think the interesting thing about the Hogfather too was he's not just a fictional character in this world. Like, he is a god in a sense. Like, he represented the like an animal sacrifice, solar minimum god, that without him being around, the sun wouldn't come up, right? Which is really interesting thing to think about.
I find that because one of my pet things is knowing where other things come from. So for me, I've always been fascinated with the concept that Christianity kind of went, well, they're having this big thing in midwinter that's like a really big deal, so we'll just put our name on that and call it Christmas. So all the same things happen, and all of the same traditions are enacted for that belief in midwinter, and we need to get through midwinter, and the sun's got to come up, and all of those things happen, but now it's happening in the name of Christianity instead of what it used to be named as, which is what we're seeing in Hogfather, where the Hogfather used to be about making the sun rise, and as that need has gone away, as everybody's got a bit smarter, it's not about that anymore. Now it's about, we're going to get pork dripping and sausages and food, rich food in the middle of midwinter, because now that's what's important. Well, that's evolved.
The funny thing with the Hogwatch is it's on December 32nd too of the year, so it's kind of interesting there. But yeah, I mean, it shows you that gods have to change with the times, and that's mentioned a few times, where gods have to adapt in this
old gods,
universe.
New jobs.
Yeah, exactly. They gotta put on some new clothes sometimes, because they got to adapt to the world they're in.
I thought it was really interesting how Death was talking about how the Hogfather has his own pocket of time that's outside of time that allows him to get all the presents done and everything like that. And I think part of that is that if that doesn't happen, that's another reason why the sun doesn't rise. If his job isn't finished, the sun can't rise the next day, because the Hogfather's mission is incomplete. That's kind of the impression I got.
My thing is at the end, Susan and Death obviously have that fabulous conversation about belief, and Susan says, "You can't tell me that the sun wasn't going to come up," and Death goes, "It wouldn't. It would have been a flaming ball of gas."
Yes, right.
And that's different to the sun. This life-giving, this idea-inspiring, hopeful, emotive thing.
Mhm.
Whereas a flaming ball of gas lets off light and heat, and that's it. It is a mere thing, as opposed to something that symbolizes.
I think there's two important things too. It's Hogwatch night and Hogwatch morning, right? Where the kids are woken by the sun rising, and they get to open their gifts and open their presents. So I think the sun rising on Hogwatch morning is just as important as the Hogfather doing his rounds. And I found it very interesting.
Symbol of
exactly
rebirth and life, and
exactly right, exactly that life and rebirth. And I guess kind of going back to that monologue by Death at the end, where we have to, that's probably one of the best monologues in one of the best Pratchett quotes, bar none, ever, where he talks about, we have to believe in the little lies to believe in the big ones. And it's
can I read it real quick?
Of course, yeah.
Because that was one of the ones I highlighted. They're talking, and he's talking about as if it were some pink pill. Humans need fantasy to be human, to be the place where the falling angel meets the rising ape. Tooth fairies, Hogfathers, little. Yes, as a practice, you have to start out learning to believe the little lies. And then Susan answers, so we can believe the big ones. And it's really, that was fascinating.
Because it's true, and it's true in our world as well. We have this concept of justice and heroism and courage. None of those things are real.
No, they're not. Yeah.
None of those things exist as things. We've made them up. We have given this behavior, this belief in a way of living, a name, and we've said this is a thing and it's real, and these are standards we're going to live up to. They're made up.
Yeah. Well, I think the important
they're not real.
The important end of that quote too is what Death says next, where it's like the big lies are mercy, justice, honor.
Right.
And if you grind down the universe to the smallest atom, show me an atom of justice, show me an atom of mercy. And they don't exist. They are human creations, and you have to believe.
And our belief in them makes them real.
Exactly.
For Terry to do that, honestly,
he had some banger quotes in this book, though. There's one I bookmarked here where it was I like it because I work in education, where he was talking about...
yes. It's one of my favorite quotes.
I love this. I'll read it out here. So, getting an education was a bit like a communicable sexual disease.
Yes.
It made you unsuitable for a lot of jobs, and then you had the urge to pass it on.
Yeah.
It's perfect. And it's so true.
Yeah. It is very true.
Yeah.
The joyous thing with all of Discworld is you can read it on a textual level, and it's just a great funny romp, and you get to the end and you've had lots of laughs. Or you can read it and go, wow, okay, he's touched on so many really important things that I'm thinking really heavily about now. And this is just a funny, absurd kind of nonsense book. And the ability to be able to do both in the same couple of hundred pages is frankly astonishing.
Yeah, he's such a masterful writer. Like in terms of the themes he's bringing up, I think one of the things I really like about Terry is he really addresses a lot of like social issues, even though a lot of his books are now 30 years old, some of them, plus that they're so relevant today, and there's so many things that are relevant. And if you can't pull anything out of a Discworld book that resonates with you, like I don't know if you really read it. That's the thing. They're really powerful texts. And he's such an enjoyable writer to read.
Yes.
Because the language he writes is quite digestible, and he's masterful with mixing that humor and those seriousness, and like he can be completely silly and then serious within a page, right?
Right.
So it's fascinating how he kind of blends that too. But I found this book, there wasn't a lot of humor in this book as much as
Not
like
as much.
it was a bit of a not darker humor, but more serious humor, because I think it's maybe to impression upon the reader how serious this is, that that the Hogfather is gone, and that we need to get him back, and that's why I really like Death stepping in. Death really realized how important the Hogfather is,
right?
And
the irony is, he got some of the funniest lines.
yes, he did. I love him trying to like,
and he got some of the most serious topics too. I mean, the social ethics exploration in this book was really deep and phenomenal. Just so many things that Death saw that he didn't think was right, and he's right that they're not right, and yet
absolutely,
and yet as humans we just kind of exist as if it's commonplace.
Well, when he encounters the little match girl, he's very offended that could occur on Hog's Watch night. And when Albert tries to explain that, well, everybody else feels better because that's not them. And even as Albert says it, you can see Albert going,
yeah, maybe you're right.
Actually, very good.
Well, the one thing I loved about that scene, which was my favorite part with the little match girl, where Albert's saying, Death, you cannot do that, you are Death, and he's like, I'm not Death, I'm the Hogfather, and the Hogfather can do it. And
the Hogfather can give the gift of life.
Future,
of future.
Love that. I absolutely love. You know what though? Death was playing 3D chess in this movie the whole time.
Oh, absolutely.
Where he went to Susan and he's like, don't get involved, I'm just here to wish you a happy Hog's Watch,
nothing to do with you, stay out of it.
Stay out of it. And and Susan, absolutely brilliant in this book. Like, I liked Susan in Soul Music, but Susan in the Hogfather blew me away, where how competent of a character is. And I mean, she was just excellent with, like, even just being a governess with the kids and the pokers, and like showing them that I think he did really good world building there, because and foreshadowing too, like unbelievable foreshadowing for Terry at the beginning, where she's kind of what's the word I'm trying to look for, where she's beating up these monsters with this poker in front of the kids to, like, so they're not afraid, right? So that when we get to the end of the book and Death is there and Tiatame is there, and Tiatame gets killed by the poker, that the kids aren't.
It's the complete faith that the poker has the power to kill the monster.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's that complete belief. And again, we're in that belief theme again. The power of that belief and how you can use it to control your environment. It's just, he really is just the most amazing writer. He really is.
It's that's what came out for me. Like, this book was not as silly as a lot of the other Discworld books. It was very serious, but it was so much fun, just like seeing like Death run around as the Hogfather, with the pillow under in his rib cage.
The side characters as well. The Death of Rats did a fabulous job.
Oh man, the Death of Rats was hilarious.
Only one word in his vocabulary.
Right?
It's
pretty
impressive. But you've got Quoth, who's busy trying to eat everything that could maybe be an eyeball. That running gag was hilarious the whole way through.
It was,
and I just so funny.
Well, some of the things that I really
and Beers, he was great.
So
many little characters were so fabulous.
And I love seeing I love seeing Nobby in this book, because I just I just recently read Guards, and so seeing Nobby, I was like, oh, I love you, Nobby. Like his whole, especially when he was sitting on the Hogfather's lap, and the Hogfather
not knowing what to call him.
Have you been
a good little person? What are you? That was funny.
That
So
was.
Terry did actually say, not long before he left us, that it was really hard to put a book in Ankh-Morpork that didn't involve the watch, because they always showed up there.
Oh yeah.
It didn't matter what he was writing.
Yeah,
the
that
watch
makes
just
sense.
happened when he
Yeah,
set one in Ankh-Morpork. So it was nice to see Nobby.
Yeah.
But you know what? Like, this is the only Death book I think where Death is a main character, because
Yes.
I found in a lot of the other Death books, like Mort, Reaper Man,
Yeah,
Soul Music,
the focus.
he's not the focus. Like, he's not at all.
No.
Whereas this one, like, Death is a main character. You're getting like amazing POVs from Death, and I think one of my other favorite quotes is kind of going back to when Death's at I guess he's at a mall, like an equivalent
Yes,
of
he's in
a
the big
mall,
the big toy shop.
is when he gives that little
And the
girl
grotto.
Yes, that's right. In the Hogfather's grotto, where he gives that little girl the sword, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't
And-
give her a sword.
Yeah, and
She's
like
a child.
Right?
she'll hurt herself, and he's like, "Well, that's an
Well, it's
important lesson."
educational.
That's right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
she'll hurt herself. Then she will learn a lesson.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that makes him so funny and so endearing is that he is so literal. He takes everything so literal.
Mhm.
Like the first time we see him in the role of the Hogfather, he comes down that and I've got it here. I had saved it. He reads on there, for Hog's Watch, I would like a drum on and a dolly and a teddy bear and a ghastly Omnian Inquisition torture chamber.
Yes.
And he's just like, okay, here we go. He just pulls it right out because he's the Hogfather. He can give it, and then on later on on that one box it says victim figures not included. I mean, I'm just
Yes.
it's just hilarious. But he takes everything so literal, and I think
Mhm.
that's what makes him so endearing, is because you get these weird and wonderful things occurring that would never occur if someone took them how they were supposed to be and a figure of speech or whatever. But he doesn't understand that, so it's just
Mhm.
the no holds barred. He's just whatever you want, here you go, give the girl a sword.
Well, I think that's the thing with Death is how multifaceted he is, where he's childlike and like in
Yes.
his being literal, but then how dark he can be because he sees people at their death, and Death was just fascinating in this book. He in a lot of the Death books, that's been my biggest complaint, is you don't get a lot of Death, you don't get a lot of character building with Death. And
No.
where in this one, it's just you see every kind of facet of Death, like the genius of Death, where he's enlisting Susan to get him to help him, and and going on this mission to make sure that the Hogfather doesn't die, that there's some belief out there.
Yeah, and he's really working hard to keep that belief
Yeah.
really alive. And that makes for some really entertaining scenes.
You know what's really interesting, actually, thinking about it now, is with where Death, like, he's outside of time, right? When he's doing his work as Death, and the Hogfather is outside of time, but the Tooth Fairy isn't.
Yes, she is. It does get picked up on when they're talking about the time space that Susan goes into when she decides to take it on. She's like, okay, stop time. And the duration is there, but the time isn't. So, and she talks that this is the time, space, existence, plane, whatever. That the Tooth Fairy, the Jack Frost, and all of those things can access that space, dimension, plane, whatever it is.
The one thing is, I guess the Tooth Fairies who work for the Tooth Fairy,
the franchisees,
the franchisees,
because that's what they're doing.
They got the ladder,
and I'm not sure how they get into that time, but we know that they do because other people don't see them. Susan can see them, other people can't. So it's I like the little nods to the Tooth Fairies, though, and that they are franchisees. And so you get mistakes from the Tooth Fairies when they get a set of pliers, because sometimes they may not have change. And I love that.
Or when they got the ladder tax, where they have to pay for the ladder or something like that.
Yeah, it gets stocked out of their pay. And those little things are what make it so much fun to read, because having a bloke follow up with a clipboard is something we're all familiar with.
Yeah,
right.
Did you actually do that?
Yeah.
We gave you the list. How do we know you did it? And those are the things that somehow make the most absurd things in these books feel real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
He's thought about this.
They're like public servants, right? Like the Tooth Fairy has to go collect the teeth, Death has to go usher people to the afterlife and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they're almost like civil figures, like a government agency in a sense. Like that's what they're an institution, which I really kind of enjoyed. Maybe we should talk about the Tiatame's crew. What did everyone think about Tiatame's crew, and just how he developed this plan? I guess for those, like I said, there's going to be full spoilers how Tiatame, removed the power of the Hogfather and essentially killed him. So what did you guys think about the crew?
They were really cleverly used to show how frightening tea time was.
Right.
And you had that range of they're actually so dirty that even the guilds that deal with crime don't want to deal with them.
Right.
They will do the lowest of the low jobs. I mean, the guy's called Chicken Wire to make sure that limbs don't come floating up out of the river after he's given them the concrete overshoes.
Yeah.
So, and then you've got that really childlike brother who's there as the muscle, Banjo. And the way that he's been used as muscle for so long for this group of guys means they forget that he has that childlike innocence, which ultimately plays against them. And the fact that these hardened criminals find this guy really disturbing is the most powerful thing, I think, about all of them.
Yeah.
Even to Mr. Brown, who I actually quietly find my favorite of the criminals, the safecracker, because he approaches it in such a professional way. Don't run, walk away.
He's so cold and calculated about it.
Absolutely. You don't stay and count your money. You walk away, and nobody chases you. So yes, it's and like he's the one that initially stands up to tea time. He's the one who initially says, "Yeah, just because I can't get this magic door open, you still owe me for the work I've done."
That's right.
And he's the first one to get quite horribly done away with, and which begins that fear in all of the other ones.
That's right, because he's the first to die. But you can't die in the Tooth Fairy's. There's no death there, right? And that's why death can't go in there and stop him.
It's a child's place, and people don't die in children's worlds. They go away.
That's right.
And the way that the Tooth Fairy's realm is described, you're both parents. You've seen the pictures. When kids draw pictures of houses, it's green at the bottom. There's a square house. It has a door. It has 4 windows. It has a chimney, and it has a spiral out of the chimney. Who lives in those houses anymore?
Right?
They don't exist.
No.
Yep.
But every child draws that picture with the blue across the top, the yellow sun, brown trunks, green leaves on the trees. Children all know that picture. They all know it. They all draw it. So I really liked the little nod where the O-God says, "Oh, well, maybe they're all just drawing this place." The Tooth Fairy's house. And it's so disturbing because nobody dies there, and there's nothing between the green grass and the blue sky. There's nothing.
It's void.
And all of them find it so disturbing, except Banjo, who feels perfectly okay with it.
Yeah.
And I love he's a child.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought it was so amazing and so appropriate that he became the warden of sorts over that realm when everything was said and done. Kind of took over the Tooth Fairy's job.
Because it's a receptacle of their teeth, and because
Mhm.
they're a part of a person,
Mhm.
they can be magically used to control them. So
Mhm.
to have a child and being responsible for something that's really important seems ridiculous, but it's
Mhm.
perfect, because
Mhm.
all he
It
needs to
is.
know is that it's important. You need to keep them safe.
Right.
That's all he needs to know.
Yeah,
And he's going to be perfect at that job.
for
He
sure.
is.
Yeah.
He
Oh
really
yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
No,
doesn't need reasons.
no, and I guess then, well, Banjo's life will just keep continuing because he's in a
He's
place
outside of
where he's
time.
outside of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's outside of time.
I really like Banjo, and like you know, you see how dangerous he can be because he's.
Oh, absolutely.
But then you know when he finds out that they're killing the Hogfather, and he's like, no, like
No.
there has to be a Hogfather. What do you mean?
hmm
We're getting rid of the Hogfather. There's always a Hogfather, and
Right.
you
But
know,
even then, he doesn't act against it. And he doesn't
mhm.
act against Tea Time until Tea Time pulls Susan's hair.
Yes,
And you
that's
don't
right.
pull
Mhm.
girls' hair.
That's
Mhm.
He's
right.
been taught that so strongly that
Mhm.
even though you're big and you're strong and you've got this ability to hurt people, you don't hurt girls. You
Mhm.
don't hit girls, you don't pull their hair. And that's just
Yeah.
a blanket rule for Banjo. You just don't do it.
You
So
know,
when
Absolutely.
Tea Time does, that's what triggers Banjo.
you know
And that's what makes him step
what's
up.
interesting is Banjo had no fears in the Tooth Fairy's castle. There was
No,
nothing hunting
because he's
Banjo.
innocent.
He's innocent. That's right.
Right.
Even with what I'm certain is a lot of horror he's seen with the
Mhm.
work
Mhm.
he's been doing with his brother and the rest of the criminals, he personally doesn't feel any horror
Right.
about the world around him,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
that innocence was really quite beautiful to read.
Yeah.
So
It was, and yeah, while everybody else is pretty much haunted by like different things, which all ended up being a boogeyman.
yeah,
Or a boggart, as Harry Potter would call
yeah.
it. But yeah, that reminded me of the boggart. Oh my god, that's
Oh,
a boggart.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and
yeah.
the first boggart,
Mhm.
Yeah.
the original one, and
The
again,
original one, yeah.
old gods, new jobs,
Mm.
and that sense of evolution really speaks throughout the book, and I love it.
Mhm.
That nod to things change, and you
Mhm.
have to change with it, because
Exactly.
if you don't, you become completely meaningless.
So maybe
Mhm.
Derry, you can explain this. So why did the boggart first boogeyman Tooth Fairy die or disappear? Is it because
Well,
there was a lack of
he
belief in
was
them?
he was really, really old. I mean, Susan
Mm,
points out when he drops the disguise in the end because he can't frighten Susan,
mm,
he's really, really old. And there isn't the same fear of the
Mhm.
dark that there used to be.
Right.
And he's been hanging on and hanging on and hanging on and hanging on and just can't anymore. The disguise has been lifted. There's nowhere for him to hide anymore.
Mhm.
There isn't a deep dark anymore. There's nothing left for him to do.
mhm.
And there's literally nothing that could hold him to his existence. And so you get that that hole in belief again. And Susan knows, if I don't fill this, that's going to cause more problems. So
It's true.
Banjo, you can stay here and you can fill this role, because by this point it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I know what's happening now. This is what we're going to do.
It
Right.
was interesting with the the Tooth Fairy
Mm.
boogeyman was that the eventual love that he developed for children, and
Yeah.
not wanting to scare them, and then realizing how powerful their teeth are, and how they're magical items.
So even that's foreshadowed really
Yeah.
early with Red Cully's bathroom.
Right.
when he talks about how there's even a pot for my toenail clippings,
Yep.
because you don't let them go randomly wherever you like.
That's
because
right.
if someone
I
gets
didn't-
hold of a piece of you, they can have control over you magically. So
That's a really good point. I didn't
that's a
even
really
think of
clever
that.
little thing he put in there quite early.
Yeah, I did not realize that.
Hmm.
Okay, I guess
So
that's a good
you get that
segue to
nod.
like the wizards. Like, what did you think? Like, Chaz, what did you like about the wizards in this book? We'll go down the line.
I read what I like most about the wizards is they're just so they're so scatterbrained. And I mean they really are ADD. I mean they just well what if we do this? Oh well, maybe that doesn't work. Well, let's try this and and then all of a sudden Red Cully will get distracted and pull something out of his hat drawer and say, just all this random stuff. That's what I love about the Wizards is they're so random, and it makes you wonder how in the world they get anything done.
Yeah. So, they're almost kind of childlike too.
They
a
are,
little bit,
yeah.
Where they're like, let's try everything, throw it all in the bucket, and let's see what happens, right? Like,
Yeah.
I kind of love that about them. Terry, what did you like about the Wizards so much in this book?
I always love the Wizards. They're brilliant. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we all know some really, 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 really clever people who are just daft.
Oh, and yeah.
The Wizards are that. They're so clever that normal everyday things are chaotic. And to have this group of wizards suddenly go, oh, if something could exist, because it makes sense that something's eating the odd socks, for them to suddenly go, oh, we're bringing these things into existence. And they're still managing to draw things into existence. Is hilarious. And then you've got the full range of them. You've got the big and the loud and the brash and Red Cully. You've got the kind of wheezy and stuck in his ways Wrangler, and you've got the completely bonkers Berser. And then you've got Ponder.
Ponder, yeah.
I mean, I love Ponder.
Ponder's
I think I might
great.
have been Ponder when I was a child, because I know the rules to Monopoly. I am that child. I'm sorry. And he's created Hex. And I want to talk about Hex because
Hex is brilliant.
So much fun. In this day and age, to have Hex in Discworld is just fun to listen to because he's got RAM. Okay, it's a RAM skull, but he's got RAM. He has access-only memory. Yeah. He has a mouse, but the mouse only works if there's cheese. All of these things that we find commonplace in a computer, we can add memory. Oh, well, he just puts another beehive out the back for the ants to go and store the information in. And the computing power, as it were, of Hex is vastly entertaining. That we start early on where he's having a chat with the Berser. Halfway through the book, Hex has gone a bit dotty because he's caught mental from the Berser.
What was the line, Derry? Was it like real stupidity can beat artificial intelligence any day?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
That was an excellent quote.
Yeah. I have confused people for years by randomly typing cross melon cross where it's just I don't know.
Yeah, cucumber failure.
Yeah, cucumber.
Out of cheese error.
Does Hex ever say like Millennium Hand and Shrimp? Does he? I don't think he
does.
I think the Berser says it.
It might be the Berser.
I think it's the Berser.
Hex, I just find Hex fabulous because Death figures out really fast. If I can get Hex to believe, we're good.
Yeah.
Right.
But first we've got to cure him from Berser's illness.
So
we're going to give you dried frog pills by typing dried frog pills into Hex.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I just loved it. And you have Ponder being really concerned because when Hex doesn't work for Ponder has to, spend hours trying to work out what's wrong. Red Cully shouts at it and threatens it with a hammer.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Hex is like, error. Just thinking out loud. It's a guess. I just loved that because it's such a Discworld thing have a computer be frightened of somebody with a hammer.
Yeah, it is.
It's so true.
It's brilliant. And then by the end of it, when Death has decided to have Hex believe in the Hogfather, he then asks for a toy.
Yeah, have you been a good boy?
But initially Death is like, but you can't. Oh, hang on. And so now you've got a whole nother question where if you can believe, that makes you sentient.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so you get that lovely discussion happening in the text as well. Because, yes, Hex does believe. Therefore, he's an entity on his own and is allowed to wish for something from the Hogfather.
Yeah, of course.
And I just loved that. Just loved that.
Yeah, Hex was, for something that's inanimate, had a lot of power, and I think it gave a lot of power to some of the themes in the book. Right, very well done. Like just the things that Terry brought into into this book is masterful, and I really liked how Susan, because Susan goes to the Hogfather's castle, right, to find out what's going on, and she runs into Bilius, like the old god of hangovers, and then
Yes.
I don't know how she makes the logical leap to let's bring this guy to the wizards to help cure him.
Well, part of it from her is she's like, okay, well, he's kind of human shaped. I can't really leave him here.
Yeah.
So if he's got to come with me, I need to figure out what's going on. He might have answers.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny is that she does take him to the wizards. The wizards do their daft, turn the Lord, just madness.
Yeah.
And Bilius is going, and who are they?
They're the smartest people in the world.
And she's like, these are actually the smartest guys. Sorry.
And they're afraid of Susan, too.
Oh, yeah. Susan.
When she raises her voice, it's all over. Raises, if I remember right, raises her voice in the voice of Death.
Yes, she does.
Yeah.
Because as Death is filling in for the Hogfather, he's not being dead. So the belief in Death has to go somewhere. So it goes to Susan because she's the next best thing to Death, which is what we saw in Soul Music.
That's right. Yeah.
So and that's how she knows something weird is going on, because she's like, "What is he doing?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's that real sense of,
what
are you doing?
Yeah.
Because she's being drawn into it.
And I think, sorry, Derry, please. Where she actually thought Death killed the Hogfather at first, I believe.
Initially she did. And that's why she went to the Hogfather's castle. She's like, what is going on?
Okay. Sorry, I need to talk about one of my favorite parts, and I just remembered it. When Death and Albert show up to see Susan, and Albert drinks the sherry and eats the pork pie, and she's like, "How many pork pies have you had?" He's like, "I have no, lost count." And then Death's like, 1,700,000 sherries. I love that so much.
Because every house they go to has it. So
well, and I love that idea, and it was the way he explained it, whereas the sherry belongs to all the sherries that are out there, and
they're all that one symbolic
exactly
sherry. And they're all that one symbolic pie. So Albert exploded in a horrific mess of sherry and pork pie,
right?
Because that's a lot of pork pie. When you talk about the sherry and the pork pie, I think of the fact that the librarian has put up a stocking.
Yes.
Because it has that childlike innocence as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the Hogfather comes to the librarian.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and it does kind of prove how smart the wizards are, that they have to go, okay, well, we need to see what's happening, and we'll go to see the librarian because they know he puts up a stocking for the Hogfather. So the
Hogfather has to show up there at some point.
Exactly. They're dumb, but they're not. And this book it's like an onion, literally. It has so many layers to it that
it really, really does.
It's such a beautiful book, and I think anyone can really enjoy this. And if anyone, I think anyone could read this book, it being your first Discworld experience. So this is, I think, my 15th book in the Discworld. Chaz, this is your third.
Derry, and it's my first real Death book.
Chaz hasn't. Yeah.
Chaz hasn't. Yeah. So
how did you feel coming into it new? Were there things in there that didn't make sense, or
there were
should have been things?
Yeah, so my only experience with the wizards and with death was in Color of Magic.
Oh,
And that was a
wow. Okay.
long time ago. I
Yeah.
haven't read that in ages. So I was coming into it other than
It's a new faculty, really.
yeah, other than Guards. I just got done reading Guards last month. Other than that, I was completely foreign to it. So yeah, the wizards are were completely almost completely fresh to me, and Death, of course, as well. Even though I remembered him being my favorite character in Color of Magic, but I didn't remember much about it. So it did feel kind of foreign at times, and I'm like, okay. There were times I'm like, there were times I knew I was missing some inside information
Okay.
that I probably would have gotten from another book, maybe like Soul Music, for instance. It was helpful that they kind of explained that she was his adopted granddaughter by way of Mort, I'm guessing.
Yes.
So Mord's daughter, so she's his granddaughter, and so she's been granted a dispensary of his powers. But so I kind of gathered it over time, but it was a little bit confusing at first. But it wasn't to the point that I couldn't enjoy the book completely. I do think you can read it as a standalone and be just fine. So,
that's good.
It just took a little bit of the gears turning to figure out, okay. And I remembered the librarian from Guards, so that part was fine.
Yeah.
What about you, Derry? Like, where do you put the Hogfather? And since you've read everything right now, so.
Yeah, I have. The Hogfather is right up there, and I think you'll find most Discworld fans will say the same. There are a few top tier Discworld books, and the Hogfather is absolutely one of them. Because every plot thread is as good as the others. Like, there's no plot in that book that you go, that one was a bit silly, or didn't really see the value of that. Every thread tied in beautifully. They all had their arcs. They all had their own little in-jokes. Hogfather is right up there as an excellent Discworld book. It really,
I have to agree. Yeah, like, now that I'm like I said, I'm probably like 16 books into the Discworld, so I'm slowly making my way through now. And it was really up there for me. I loved every part of this book. Like, I loved the protagonist of Death and Susan Stohelit. Loved the antagonist, actually, like Mr. Tea Time or Tiatame. Anytime you can get me to relate or be in a POV of a villain, and I like the villain, instant top tier book for me. I really like villains just because they're typically more interesting and and the thing was, this is a really hyper competent villain. It wasn't like some bumbling villains like in Guards, right? This is a extremely competent villain with the Assassin's Guild. And then just the whole vibe of Christmas, our Christmas, their Hogswatch, really put me in the mood for Christmas. And it was such an enjoyable book. And I'm going to be doing eventual top 10 books of the year for 2021, and the Hogfather, I don't know where I'm going to put it yet, because I haven't made my list purposely, because I'm like, this book's going to screw me up because I have no idea where to put it.
But it doesn't compare to other books, and this is a problem I have with Discworld in general. That's a horrible sentence. I don't have a problem with Discworld at all. The Discworld books cause me a problem in that they're incredibly hard to sell to people.
Yes.
Because they're this monolithic wall of books. There are 41 official Discworld books. There are probably a good dozen, maybe even as many as 20 sort of spin-offs and associated books that goes with it. And for people who read fantasy, 41 books?
That's a tough sell.
That's insane.
Yeah, it is a tough sell.
And as fantasy readers, we're used to, you start at the beginning and you go.
Yep.
And I am a pretty vocal proponent of that. If you're going to read a series, you start at the beginning. You don't skip stuff.
Yep.
Except Discworld.
Yeah.
If you start
Yeah.
at the beginning in Discworld, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Exactly.
So true.
The first 4, or maybe I can't remember which number Mort is, but
3.
the first 3 books
No, 4.
were
Mort's 4. It's 4.
Okay, so the first 3 books weren't part of Discworld.
No.
Discworld wasn't a thing. Terry Pratchett was literally making the point that anybody can write a fantasy book. And he was taking the mickey completely out of all of the tropes in fantasy. And he wrote those books and was never going to go back. But Neil Gaiman, much like you, Chas, has gone, death was cool. I liked death.
Yeah.
Right.
And Neil Gaiman went out of his way to directly ask Terry, please write me something with death in it. And so that's where there's that gap between those first 3 books and Mort is the beginning of Discworld.
Mm-hmm.
Mort is where Terry Pratchett's gone, oh, actually there is something here. And that's where you see the actual genesis of a world, of a coherent, interconnected set of stories.
That's
Those
good to
first
know.
few books almost don't belong. I mean, they're part of the world building, and that you can see Terry having ideas about how it could work, but he wasn't invested in exploring that any further, and so wasn't deliberately building connections. Where once you get into Mort, those connections are starting to be deliberately put in place, because that's a thread I might use later. This is something I might look at later. And that's where Discworld becomes Discworld.
Yeah.
But even then, it's probably 3 or 4 books before he's got into his stride and he's moved completely away from the satire of fantasy as a genre and is moving into satire of other things using fantasy as the genre.
And then, like 3 or 4 books later, like that's Guards.
And
like
then you hit Guards.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Guards is when you're into, right, from here, these are Discworld books.
Yeah.
And even those I don't necessarily say you should read in order.
Yeah, it's so true.
If you don't enjoy a Discworld book, pick up a different one.
That's right. That's so true.
Just pick up a different one, because there are so many characters,
I can see that
and
being very
so
true.
many things that when you find the set of characters that speak to you, read their books. And their books will have connections to other books.
Yeah.
And finding Discworld organically like that, I think, and I'm one person, I don't even have a BookTube channel.
Yeah, exactly.
Without a BookTube channel. But I genuinely think that organic way of discovering Discworld is the best way to discover Discworld.
It is.
Yeah.
Because no individual book is any stronger than Guards, or the Hogfather.
Yeah.
And even they're not the perfect Discworld book.
Yeah.
The strength of Discworld is in its entirety.
It's the sum of its parts, yeah.
The more you read Discworld, the more you enjoy reading about Discworld. And you can go back to books that you thought were okay after reading more, and suddenly it's far funnier.
Yeah.
And it makes far more sense. And it is absolutely greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
For sure.
But to start at the beginning, so many people walk away from Discworld because they've done that. And they're like, why do people love this?
Yeah, like I picked up Going Postal was the first Discworld book I bought. I think I picked it up
and
thrifting.
That's brilliant.
Like picked it up at like a used bookstore, and I'm like, I'll try it. Like blew the back of my head right off, right? So like and I think that's how
Going Postal's a good one to pick up first as well, because there isn't a lot of interconnectedness. It is brand new characters for the most part.
Right.
And you can go in blind, and it's hilarious.
It's so funny.
Like, it's really good.
I've been trying to sell one of my friends on Discworld. I was trying to sell her on Guards, and I was also trying to sell her on Hogfather, and I felt like at least with her the generic approach definitely seems to work, because I know that she's a huge Monty Python fan. And she's a huge fan of The Princess Bride, and I'm like, okay, if you like those, you will love these books.
Yeah, because it's not whimsical. Whimsical isn't the right word.
Right, no.
But it's that same sort of very light-handed, magical fairy tale fantasy. It's
Mhm.
and again, it makes it really hard to sell to people because it doesn't
Yeah.
fit in a category
Mhm.
that compares to anything else, which is why I said earlier to you, Dan, that putting it in the top 10 is going to feel weird
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's not a big epic tome that has,
No.
all this amazing, world building and all of it's
Yeah.
this relatively short, sometimes nonsensical, odd and difficult to describe book
Mhm.
that you're comparing apples with toasters. They're
Yeah.
that far
that's
apart.
so
It's almost better to put it in like a like do a special mention.
Yes.
Yeah.
Special category all on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah, honorary mention,
Yeah.
whatever you
'Cause it-
decide to
Because
call
like
it.
that's what, like one of my next videos coming out is like I ranked like my most anticipated Discworld books that I really want to read.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I saw that you had
That's
that coming up.
tough. That was so hard to do. But one thing you said, like I wouldn't say whimsical is the word, but there is
No.
whimsy in it, right?
Yeah.
There's
There
definitely
is
whimsy in
whimsy,
it,
yeah.
but it's not whimsical in that like
No,
it
they're
doesn't take
so
itself too
hard to
seriously.
pin down.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think
Because
we're
what are you likely to do next, Chas?
I'm gonna continue with the City Watch and do Men at Arms.
Oh,
okay.
excellent.
Yeah.
You'll love that book.
Probably won't be till the first part of the year, but I am gonna continue with Men at Arms. Yeah.
Good
I want to.
stuff.
My goal is to finish the City Watch. As long as I enjoy them. If I find one I'm not enjoying, I'll probably pick up something else. But
And feel free to do so.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then I want to move on to the Death books as well after that.
Well, especially with like the death books, like and the guards. Like I know you need to read Thief of Time, or you should read Thief of Time, which is the next death book before you do Night Watch. Because
I don't
there's
know.
like I'm not sure. Like that's what I've been told. So like
I'm trying to think where the connectedness to those would be, and I.
I think Thief of
Actually,
Time's right.
yeah, it would help.
Yeah, I think it would just
help. But like anything with Discworld, it's not set in stone. You don't have to. You don't have to.
Yeah.
There will simply be elements that you go, that's weird.
Yeah.
Okay. And move on.
Monks.
Thief of Time, and it is the monks that will be the factor.
Okay.
Men at Arms is good though, Chas. You're gonna love that book.
Men at Arms is great.
So I guess
because that's where we get the watch go from that core unit of 4, where you've got Vimes and Carrot, Nobby, and Colon.
Uh-oh, my dog's barking here.
That's where you see those 4 individuals become a unit as they have to take on more people.
Yeah.
So, and I'm saying people in the broadest sense of the term.
So maybe we'll start wrapping it up because, like, I guess we've been an hour now, and
yeah, sounds like your dog's feed me or something like that.
You can see on the back. I'm just gonna one second.
Yeah.
So with going into Men at Arms, what are you hoping for when you go into the next Guards book?
I honestly don't know what to expect, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, I'm very much looking forward to. I got the impression, because of his tattoo, I got the impression that Carrot is royalty, but we haven't seen it yet. So I'm anticipating. I'm anticipating seeing more of what they find out about Carrot. I'm curious to see where the swamp dragon romance with the large dragon is going to go. What's that?
And with Lady Sybil as well.
And with Lady Sybil as well. Yeah. So I'm very excited to see where those go. And Vimes, of course. I'm excited to get more of Vimes and also the the ruler. What it I
Oh,
forget.
Lord
Vetinari, the
Vetinari.
patrician.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ventinari, yeah, the patrician, yeah.
Oh, he's
So
great.
I've got a lot of invested directions that I want to see explored in the next book. So
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to hearing
Yeah.
your journey as you
Yeah,
go through
too.
that.
I'm excited about it. And
Did you notice the Captain Carrot nod at Hogwatch?
Yes, the action figure. Yes. Yeah, I love that.
Oh,
I
you know
love that.
The
what?
one man watch.
I do.
Yeah, the one man
Yes,
watch.
actually, I do remember that now. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I love that little nod that he's,
Yeah.
you know, enough of a hero in the city's eyes that
He's
he has an
enough of a
action figure.
hero.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I
I
guess
thought that was pretty special.
want to ask you all a last question. Has the Hogfather got you in the Christmas spirit or the seasonal spirit after reading it now? I know for me, it definitely has.
Definitely.
I must have a
yeah.
triple dose because I kind of overdosed on the Hogfather this month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yep. It definitely has me in the holiday spirit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so great. I do want to say to everyone, like, thank you guys for, joining and watching. I know that we didn't have too many people, but the stream's going to be, this video will be up on my channel, and like I'm going to link Chaz in it too. And
Thank you.
we're both going to be releasing our reviews. I think, what did we say, Chaz? Was it the 21st?
21st?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So look out for our reviews on the 21st for the Hogfather. I just want to say thank you so much,
Spoiler.
Terry.
They like it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That we promised this to be a spoiler chat, and that we have to get that one out there. We liked it.
We don't know.
Yeah.
We just don't know how many stars we're gonna get. It's gonna be 4+ somewhere, right? So
right. I don't know if I can even do stars on this one. I'm kind of rethinking the whole star rating thing. I don't
Discworld
know.
doesn't work compared to
yeah,
anything
I
else.
know it's so hard to do. But also say thank you so much, Derry, for taking the
You're
time.
very welcome.
I said you're my Discworld expert, and obviously my friend now too. And
Absolutely.
We're not worthy, Derry. We're not worthy.
Hey, I have a very narrow window of knowledge, but that window is full.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. And Derry, you're in New Zealand, right? So
I am
you're
in
joining
New
us in the
Zealand.
future.
I am totally from the future. The future's looking pretty good.
Yeah, so it's Saturday evening for me and Chaz, and it's what Sunday morning for you, Derry. So
It's literally just gone midday in New Zealand.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So no, just thank you guys so much for this chat. This is so much fun, and maybe Chaz will have to do this again next year and do like a buddy read again for one of the books.
Absolutely, I would love that.
And I think
And thank you so much for inviting me. I mean, this has been so much fun.
It wouldn't have been the same without you, Derry.
No, honestly, Derry.
I apologize for hogging the time.
Oh no. You
hog mother, like.
Oh, that was clever of me.
No, thank you so much. So yeah, Chaz, the next Discworld book you want to read, you pick it and we'll read it together. So how about that?
All right, excellent. Yeah, I'm down for that for sure. I'm definitely planning to read Men at Arms next. So that's a given for me. But
I have read that once, but I'd gladly read it again with you. So let me know any Discworld, because my channel's turned into like a Discworld channel. I think I have like 21 Discworld videos on my channel now. So.
Yeah, some of which are shorts.
Yeah, my shorts. So
yeah.
No, that's great. So I guess we'll end the broadcast here, guys. Thank you guys so much. Hope you all have
lovely talking to you.
Lovely talking to you.
Lovely talking to you too.
And awesome. If you guys make sure you're hitting up the Discord for my Discord and Chaz's Discord. I'll put links in the description of this video. Hit us up on there. You can talk to me, Chaz, and Derry. We're more than happy to talk to like Discworld, any kind of book, any kind of books. Just check us out on there, and thank you guys so much, and we'll see you all next time.
Bye-bye.